REI Co-op presents a mini mindfulness break. Take a deep breath in, picture yourself on a mountain. As you hold your breath, look down at your skis, freshly waxed thanks to your REI membership, carving through powder like a knife to warm butter. Breathe out slowly, let the air leave your lungs, like you'd leave your local co-op with all the gear, clothing, classes, and advice you could hope for. Make time to opt outside. REI.com.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger Delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
First of all, it's like, that's David Bowie. Is that David Bowie? What's he doing? And then puts a gun in Jeff Goldblum's mouth and then scarpers off. So I think this is a bit more of a comedy than...
Well, yeah, there's a knife fight, isn't there, in the
It's really
apartment.
violent.
And it just leaves it. And you don't know, do you ever find out who wins that one?
No.
No, not really.
They're still fighting for all we know.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 83 of Flixwatcher podcast. Today we're joined by Phil.
Hello.
And Nick.
Hello.
And Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about Into the Night.
Come find us on Twitter, tweet to us, agree with us, disagree. We're at Flixwatcher Pod. The website flixwatcher.tv has full listings of each episode, and subscribe and review us on iTunes.
So all films were available on Netflix at the time of recording, guys. Just as a bit of a warning, there is some bad language and there will be spoilers. You have been warned.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. In the studio today, we have two brothers. We have Nick and Phil. If you would like to say hello to our lovely listeners and tell us a little bit more about where we might be able to hear your voices or know what you do.
Hello, I'm Nick. I work for Empire Magazine. I do the features over there. I'm also writing a book,
What's
which
it about?
will come out at some point. Working title is Wild and Crazy Guys, and it's kind of a romp through 80s comedy history. And I've interviewed lots and lots of people, including John Landis, the director of this film.
This film we're talking about today.
Although this is not a comedy, so this does not get...
Is it not a comedy?
It's got comedic moments.
Okay.
But I would not define it as a comedy.
Because when you have Jeff Goldblum on film, there's no way there's not some comedic aspects there.
Exactly. There are some funny moments in this film, but overall, it's a really weird one. I mean, we'll get into it, but maybe it is a comedy. In my mind, it's not.
Definitely want to know when that comes out. Helen and I are big fans of the Life Moves Pretty Fast book by Hadley Freeman, is it?
Yep.
She's someone we want to get on this show. We're big fans of the 80s and
Films.
and films and 80s films. I've never heard of this one before. Sorry, go to yourself first.
Hello.
Before going into this.
I'm Phil. I'm the global film editor at Time Out.
Nice.
And I was previously at Empire Magazine, which is not where I met Nick, because he's my brother, and that's not how it works. We knew each other from before that. But we haven't seen each other. We haven't seen each other for a while, so we'll just try and rein ourselves back in from just random family chat. I haven't met John Landis, actually, but I did interview Jeff Goldblum not too long ago.
For Ragnarok or anything different?
No, not for Ragnarok. I think it was for... I can't believe I've forgotten this. It was after Isle of Dogs.
Not for the statue across the Thames or anything like that.
Wait, what was it for? Because it was a film that he's not majorly big in.
Jurassic World.
Exactly right.
Fallen Kingdom.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which he's in for all of about 47 seconds, I think. Slightly in the extended cut, but 38 otherwise. So that was a weird one because obviously, But that's me really.
Cool. And we're talking about Into the Night, which is your choice there, Nick. Can you explain to us what happens in it? You got 2 minute synopsis, and also then tell us why you brought this to us.
I can try and explain the plot. To be honest, I'm not sure I completely get it. It's one of those films like The Big Sleep that is quite hard to pin down exactly what's happening in it. And I'm not sure I completely got all the threads, even on my third viewing, which this was. But I just find it fascinating. It's such an interesting cast. It's hard to define in terms of genre. It's got Jim Henson in it, which not many films can say. And it's just really interesting, just a really strange film, especially for John Landis, who is famous for his quite broad comedies. And this isn't really a comedy, it's kind of a noir. It's a very Los Angeles film, goes all over LA. And it's a bit like Scorsese's After Hours. It's, well, actually, this is over 2 nights, but it's just this crazy journey into the underworld through the eyes of this character. And I think it's a great Goldblum performance too.
So you haven't explained who the characters are?
I haven't done any of that.
No.
I've done a terrible job so far. But so the hero of the story is Ed, who is, he does a boring job. He's an aerospace engineer or something like that. He's got a terrible marriage. His wife is cheating on him. And he decides to do something random. Dan Aykroyd suggests to him that he go to the airport, take a plane to Vegas and have an adventure. He makes it to the airport, but there he meets Michelle Pfeiffer. And he gets drawn into this mystery involving, I think, 7 emeralds. And he's being chased around by some bad guys who include John Landis himself.
Yeah.
And David Bowie is in it. There's too much to describe, but that's the broad outline.
So you said you've watched this 3 times. How many times have you watched it, Phil?
I've watched it once.
Before this? Or
I feel like I probably needed to watch another 4 times before we could contribute meaningfully to this discussion. I'll be honest, my brother has always been, this is very much in his wheelhouse. He's always been a huge, passionate aficionado of sort of 80s movies of this kind. But I'm not.
Hence writing a book about 80s.
Yeah, that would be, I've just got wise to that fact. Yeah, that would certainly be a factor. And I'm not perhaps quite as, au fait with some of these sorts of movies. In fact, I wasn't really aware of this film until we had this discussion, which I feel bad about because it is a really interesting film, and also like pub quiz trivia question as well, totally. Which I didn't know, and I'm sure Nick will elaborate on that shortly. So no, for me, first time discovery really, and I don't want to say too much more than that because I feel like Nick hasn't unfurled his full feelings for the film yet. But I feel like interesting, yeah, definitely a real curio.
I should say it was Chris Hewitt, one of my colleagues at Empire, who first drew my attention to this. I first watched it with him.
Yeah.
And it's his favourite Jeff Goldblum performance. And we got to meet Jeff at the end of last year for a podcast. And Chris brought this up with him. Actually, Chris said, guess what my favourite performance of yours I have. And Jeff guessed it somehow. He said Into the Night.
I do actually remember that, actually. It was one of those things I just thought, never heard of it. And then it kind of fell into
straight out the ears.
Yeah, but now because it's also quite like a non-event name as well.
Yeah, and it's actually just come out on Blu-ray as a special collector's edition thing, which Goldblum has done new interviews for. I haven't actually seen that yet, but I'm gonna.
So how have we all missed? Have you seen this before, Helen?
No,
because it's John Landis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Jeff Goldblum. You've got Dan Aykroyd there.
Bowie's
in there. How have we all missed this film? Because we're all 80s kids, I think, are we?
No.
Wait.
1880s. No, I'm a child of. Well, no, I guess I'm a. Yeah. Look, I queued up at the Gerrard's Cross Odeon to watch Ghostbusters when it came out, so that is my era. But I don't know. I think probably because I was maybe a bit young for this, because it's quite a violent film, isn't it? And it's surprisingly violent in ways because the tonally you don't think it's going to be, and then you're kind of like, whoa, okay, that just happened, and that was unexpected.
Even within a single scene.
Pouring blood, okay.
Yeah, there's the scene where the 3 Iranian bad guys, one of whom is played by Landis, are chasing the girl around on the beach. And it's played like a Keystone Cops kind of comedy sequence. And then they drown her.
It's so funny you should say that, because that was the bit where I just sat there and I was just like, I don't know what this film is. Because there was literally a double take moment where there's 3 of them or 4 of them?
3 of them.
These kind of mystery, they were all shades and beards, and Landis has got the big beard on. And
maybe 4, yeah.
Yeah, and she is she's the sister of Michelle Pfeiffer, is she?
Just a friend.
Just a friend. Yeah. But she's the sort of innocent patsy in the situation. And they he stops to like watch them all sort of take their watches off and he plays it for laughs. And you're like, oh, that's quite funny. And then they literally drown her. And you're just sitting there going,
yeah.
It's rare you see a drowning in film or TV. I can't think of one that springs to mind.
It's grim.
Yeah.
It's really grim.
Yeah.
And that scene with the dog in the lift as well.
Yeah.
When they're just shooting animals. and John Landis shoots some parrots as well at one point. And you're just like, that's kind of funny, but really dark. And actually it's interesting. Like if you look at the place in John Landis's filmography, this comes a couple of years after The Twilight Zone, the movie, which you may know was kind of beset by tragedy. And John Landis' segment of the film had this major accident on set where 3 of the actors, 2 children, and Vic Morrow were decapitated on the set.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So this was a huge thing that happened. John Landis wasn't there, but he was taken to court. There was a big trial that dragged on right through the 80s. And this film was his first film after Twilight Zone, the movie. And I think he was in a pretty dark place. I mean, I've spoke to him about it last year, and he said that the 80s was a very dark time generally for him.
Really?
Yeah, even The Three Amigos, he was at court. He had to edit that during the night because he was at court during the day with this long trial that was going on. And so this film kind of plays a little bit like a reaction to that, I think, that he was going through there was a lot of stuff going on. And it's quite a dark, weird, paranoid, sort of edgy film.
Is that like Spielberg's Temple of Doom? Was it Temple of Doom when he was
going through a divorce?
Yeah, you can sort of feel that a bit in the bones of the film. But yeah, and also the Goldblum character. The thing I sort of slightly struggle with about this, because Goldblum is depressed, isn't he? His wife's having an affair. He stumbled upon this.
Hates his job. Can't sleep.
Hates his job, and he's so the antithesis of the Goldblum we know and love now. The sort of like live wire, eccentric, esoteric dude. He's very glum. And nothing really breaks through that veneer apart from maybe the sparks with Pfeiffer's character at times. But even at the end, he's still depressed. He's kind of like Defense from falling down on Mogadon, isn't he? He's kind of just really low energy. And I slightly struggle with that because he's playing, it's like a 45 RPM film and he's playing it at like 33 a little bit. And it sort of feels a bit, I don't know, it just saps the energy a little bit, I thought, his performance. But you feel differently?
No, I do kind of agree. Originally, Gene Hackman was going to be in this film.
Cast, okay.
So Landis wanted Hackman.
Yeah.
Hackman said no. Then the head of the studio said, you have to cast someone from The Big Chill because that had just been a big film for the studio.
Right.
And so Landis looked at the cast for The Big Chill and was like, maybe Kevin Kline. And then he ended up going with Goldblum because he thought he was the most interesting of the cast. And so Goldblum just kind of got cast in this randomly almost. But I think it's an interesting performance. It's not the most exciting Goldblum performance, but it's something different. He's acting quite hard. Is he? I don't know.
Instead of just being Jeff Goldblum as he is in lots of other films, is that what you're saying? Let's go to Helen. What were your thoughts on it?
I mean, dark, weird, and interesting. I think 3 words that definitely sum this up. I mean, I guess this is sort of an audition for The Fly then, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. David Cronenberg is in this film.
Yeah. So
he plays...
who, what?
So did you not play Spot the Directors when you were watching it?
Well, I saw Jim Henson. I didn't realise it was John Landis until the final credits when it showed all the 4 Iranian guys in a row. But I didn't know.
Me neither.
Well, there's obviously Cronenberg's in it as well, and Amy Heckling's in it as well. And then there are a few other ones that I'm not familiar with and didn't recognise, but there's quite a few. I didn't know
Jonathan Demme, director of Silence of the Lambs, plays an FBI agent at the end.
Okay.
There's tons. It's actually a bit of a Landis trademark to put directors in his films, but this one does it more than any others.
Most.
Lawrence Kasdan, Carl Gottlieb, Roger Vadim. He did Barbarella.
Paul Mazursky.
So who are these people? You just what do they play
random,
in the just random
one-line characters? Some of them.
Okay.
It's kind of cool that it's a film about LA and a film about kind of Los Angeles, and you've got all these directors all over the film.
Yeah.
I don't know, it kind of adds to the weirdness of it.
I wish he put Walter Hill in, then you could have literally called it Where's Wally? That would have worked. I found it like, it's great. There were moments when it's just a bit like you're just doing it for the sake of it. The Amy Heckling bit where she's in a waitress in a diner and the camera cuts to her for literally no other reason than she's like the director of
Fast Times at Ridgemont.
Exactly, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yeah.
I'm not sure what I think about this film. Genuinely, because I was watching it, I just thought, okay, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, there must be a reason why I haven't heard of this film. And I just think it has kind of fallen under the radar. And because it's an 80s film, what was the film we watched? Like Midnight Run.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring that up because they both got the same airport ending. So Midnight Run came after, but with less violence. But it's very, very, very similar ending. Yeah. And also a slightly similar weird buddy on the run kind of film.
It reminded me of Midnight Run too, yeah.
But without the funnies.
Because the first time I'd heard of Midnight Run and even seen it was when someone brought it to this podcast. And it's a straight. Lots of people have seen it lots of times. You'd seen it lots of times in the 80s. So I thought Into the Night might be one of those films where, for some reason, it just passed me by, and my parents thought, "Nope, you're too young for this." But it just didn't. So it seems like not many people have seen it.
Yeah, I can kind of see why. It's not for everyone. Edgar Wright played this, I think, at the New Beverly in LA, not that long ago. He's a massive fan of it. This is actually Joe Dante's favorite John Landis.
I think it's a
random fact.
It's a director's film, isn't it? Very much. I think with the sort of the Guess Who's and it's sort of about LA, but not about LA.
Yeah.
And there's a fake film in it, and
the fake film scene. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was interesting and a bit arbitrary, but interesting. And then you get like Goldblum slapstick.
Yeah.
Again, slightly out of incongruous with the rest of what's happening necessarily, but he doesn't learn the lesson about, stunt props and rocks that are made of. He keeps sitting on things that collapse from underneath him and then go falling through a wall. And yeah, it's kind of fun, but a bit different from the rest of what goes on in his performance.
So Michelle Pfeiffer in this, this is post Grease 2.
Is this pre-Scarface or post-Scarface?
Post-Scarface.
Scarface.
Yeah.
So she's on the way to being bankable.
1985, so before Midnight Run as well.
It's a slightly thankless role, in a way. I don't know. What do you guys think? There's a weird bit of nudity in it.
There is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nudity in this film.
There's a lot of boob action, which
this is like
I don't really
80s.
get that much anymore.
Because we talked in Midnight Run, we had the 80s thing of the one punch knockout, which is smash. You give someone a light tap in the face and they're going to fall over. In the 80s, you had just a lot of casual female nudity for no reason whatsoever.
The woman on the boat.
Yeah, the woman on the boat. She's
why not?
And the woman that came out of the toilet.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's like
that's obviously what ladies did in the 80s.
Yeah, you just think like, how did this happen?
That's just what people do on boats.
Yeah,
whenever I go on a boat, just take my clothes off.
To be fair, he was topless as well. The main big guy.
He was big.
But Michelle, I didn't really get what she was doing, and I didn't really get why Jeff Goldblum was helping her, because it's not really is it a rom-com? Is it? Are they falling in love? Are they getting to know each other? I don't know. There's just lots of weird things that didn't really get answered.
And her brother is an Elvis impersonator.
Her brother's an Elvis impersonator.
Is it completely zany to compare it with like Romancing the Stone and not as much, not tonally, but just the plot of like she's smuggling diamonds back from Iran, something to do with the Shah of Iran, which would have presumably been topical at the time. And then there's Iranian death squad. And then
David Lynch gets involved in some point and then leaves the project, but his darkness is still left there and someone else picks it up.
It felt like Lynch definitely did a pass on the script at some point. Like the Bowie scenes were so like weird. They were like straight out of Twin Peaks in a way.
And it sounded like David Brent. It sounded exactly like David Brent. I thought he was playing it for laughs as well. First of all, I was like, that's David Bowie. Is that David Bowie? What's he doing? And then puts a gun in Jeff Goldblum's mouth and then scarpers off. So I think this is a bit more of a comedy than.
Oh yeah, there's a knife fight, isn't there? In the
it's really
violent, and he just leaves it, and you don't know. Do you ever find out who wins that one?
No,
no, not really.
They're still fighting for all we know. They could still be
Bowie to come back, but I like that scene where they're going through the hotel and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is playing on the TV.
Yeah, with Jeff Goldblum,
and it's this strange kind of horror comedy kind of. It's a very dark scene, and they go in and all the dead bodies are on the floor. But yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, Bowie slaughtered everyone, hasn't he? I forgot about that. He's literally killed all these people. Who have nothing to do with any of it, really.
I enjoyed that Bowie was really impressed by Goldblum and thought he was some real expert, like criminal.
Yeah, it's like, who are you? Who do you belong to?
I wanted more of that. That would have been fun if everyone was assuming that this guy was a criminal genius when he's not. But yeah, it's a weird one. I kind of picked it just because it's interesting. And
well, this is the kind of thing that Netflix is kind of good for.
Yeah.
As someone, like you say, someone would have said, in your case, Chris Hewitt says, have you seen Into the Night? And you're like, no. Well, it's on Netflix, and then you can go and watch it like straight away. Whereas back in the 80s, if a film came out, you'd have to wait 2 years if you're in the UK before it came out on VHS, and then B,
or
you probably
Sky in the 90s if it happened to be on Sky. But I don't even remember seeing this like on Film 4 or anything like that.
No.
Or on like BBC 2 at 11:30 or anything like that.
No, it's a deep cut. For sure. It's the deepest of cuts.
There's a lot of B.B. King in this film.
There is.
It's his theme tune over, isn't it?
So the way the soundtrack was done for this film is really odd, apparently, because I read a B.B. King interview.
Right.
And Landis gave him the film and said, just play the guitar, like just watch the film and play your guitar. And so that's what he did. He just made it up as he went along.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
It kind of goes with the film, which feels like they're making it up as they go along. Like, there's no real structure. There's no real, there aren't payoffs to certain things. And so he literally just stood in front of a screen and did it a couple of times. The music video is an interesting fact. Go onto YouTube and find the video for this, Into the Night, B.B. King, because it's got some amazing cameos in it. It's B.B. King, it's Goldblum on piano,
right?
Eddie Murphy on drums.
Why not?
And then on horns, it's Steve Martin, Dan Aykroyd, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
So a lot of people who aren't even in film.
Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, I don't know what they were just hanging in
the area.
Out. Yeah.
It'd be poor of us not to mention Bruce McGill as the Elvis. The film needed a bit more of him, I think. It's a furious Elvis impersonator.
Yeah, because when you go into the room, you're really not quite sure what's going on there. And you're like,
I'm still not sure.
So this is her brother.
Yeah.
And Michelle Pfeiffer's character is staying... I feel like we're going on a journey through the plot here, which is really helpful to me because I don't really know quite what was happening. But she's trying to crash with him and he's out and then he comes back and he's dressed as
with
Elvis. Yeah. Rhinestones and rage, and he's just really angry. And that's his thing, I think. And then they leave and then you don't really see him again. But
you come back to his apartment and everything's been turned over and we don't know where he is. We don't know if he's safe.
In Graceland.
Yeah.
Is he dead?
He could be.
In the toilet. They didn't go to the bathroom.
He died on the toilet. I like that his sidekick his sidekick was kind of the Hawaiian shirt Elvis, the young Elvis.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so. And he was the chief. So maybe they were taking turns. They were taking shifts at wherever they were working. It's unclear where they were, what they were up to.
There's that really bizarre taxi sort of car chase as well with the confusion in the parking lot.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of my cab.
Yeah.
That's right. The cab driver picks them up when they really stitch up the cab driver, don't they? Because they're about to be killed by the Iranian death squad.
He went the extra mile.
And they jump in the cab and the guy's like, and then suddenly he's being shot at.
If he was Uber, he would definitely earned his 5 stars. Yeah.
Whilst giving you 1 star and then dive bombing your ratings. Gosh damn it. There's a few kind of like just like scenes that stand alone and don't get, like the Elvis scene and not the scene, but at the start, Dan Aykroyd is only in it for like 2 minutes, which is such a weird thing when he at that point, he was probably peak Aykroyd. Was this after Blues Brothers? So it's after Blues Brothers, it's John Landis.
After Ghostbusters as well.
After Ghostbusters. So you think Dan Aykroyd's going to be in this for a fair while. And it's just not. Maybe 2 days on set probably for this.
Yeah. It's a mad cast list, but you do kind of want more from maybe they should have done Into the Night again and just had Goldblum. But there's a nice arc for him, I guess, that his insomnia seems to be cured. It does. That's nice, isn't it?
That's the happy ending.
Yeah. At first you think she's disappeared. She gives him some money, which is fair. And then are they happily ever after?
Hard to say, really. It's a bit, it's an ambivalent.
I didn't feel like there's a lot of chemistry there. There would have been less, I think, with Gene Hackman. that had been a very different film if it had been Gene Hackman and he ends up walking into the sunset with Michelle Pfeiffer. I think that would have been weird.
So we were talking about when we did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is the film that both of you would have vied to have chosen.
Yeah.
Do you know who was first cast? Who was originally cast?
The original ones for it.
Yeah.
I do. But I'm forgetting. I know Tom Cruise was considered.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, for Steve Martin's role.
So Mick Jagger. It was Mick Jagger and David Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different film.
I'd watch that.
Oh yeah, I'd watch it. I think they should still do it. Oh well, no, obviously can't because one of them's dead.
There's CG. They're CG.
We've seen with...
I mean, maybe they could piece some of this performance in it somehow. And
well, we're going to see that with the next Star Wars film, aren't we? With Princess Leia.
They've said they're not going to use CG for that. They're just using existing
That's
footage.
what I'm saying. They're stitching it.
Oh, stitching. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. I think it's about time maybe to go to, have we got more stuff?
We have more stuff.
Yeah, go on.
So that scene at the beginning, what went on there? No, I just wanted to say that I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Nick, for flagging this one. And also that Jeff Goldblum, like, it feels like because now you feel like, as I said, there's this kind of live wire, sparky, eccentric, often mathematical genius, Jeff Goldblum. Loved him in Thor Ragnarok. But back then, there was a much more sober, and like Nick says, acting, embodying character, different sort of range, a slightly more muted range. And there's just some real gold in those early performances.
Yeah.
And he did weirdly small roles in straight up masterpieces, didn't he? Like,
well, the first time I saw him was The Tall Guy.
Yeah,
with Emma Thompson. I used to love that film as a kid. I shouldn't maybe not watched it as a kid, but I used to watch it quite a lot. Of the three main, I guess, people involved in this production, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, and John Landis, where would you kind of rank this in their kind of film canon for each of them individually?
Crikey.
Near the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's better than The Stupids, if we're talking John Landis.
Right.
But, Blues Brothers is my favourite of his.
Okay.
And then I think you got to be realistic. He made a lot of very good films.
Absolutely.
I think this is in the lower half. But it's better than Blues Brothers 2000. And it's probably not in my top 5 Goldblum performances either, but it's not far outside of that.
Sure.
Deep Cover is another good, serious Goldblum performance.
Yeah, I was going to say that from that era, check out Deep Cover as another deep cut. Hopefully got the word deep in the title. Bill Duke's thriller.
How about you?
I think for all of them it's kind of lower, although I don't know as much Michelle Pfeiffer, but I can't imagine this is high in her favourite films that she starred in herself. I do really like Grease 2. But it's just one of those things, as a kid I used to watch it shitloads of times.
Cool Rider,
yeah. And there's still that reproduction song. It's great.
Is that your favourite Michelle Pfeiffer?
It was my no, I think my favourite Dangerous Minds. That's the Coolio one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any other Michelle Pfeiffer.
Catwoman?
Yeah, Catwoman was awesome.
Fabulous Baker Boys.
Yes, this is lower down there. John Landis, I think my favourite is Three Amigos.
Great film.
Yeah. Phil, Helen.
I mean, I'm not mega fans of all of them, really.
What's wrong with Goldblum?
No, I mean, I like him, but I'm not.
Landis?
No, I'm not a mega fan. Yeah.
So you can't rate him. Phil?
No.
I'm a super huge fan of Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And Three Amigos. I wouldn't put this anywhere near those at all. I love Jeff Goldblum. I was going to say, this isn't one of my favourite of his performances. As I probably mentioned before, it just felt a bit low energy. And I'm not sure it really plays to his strengths for me, which is that, he's sparky.
Yeah.
He very much, I think part of the problem is he's a depressed character, and depressed characters are tough to embody and write, and they aren't necessarily cinematic. And that kind of low energy existential funk that he inhabits throughout the film, I feel just didn't really capture me.
Actually, I will. The Fly Goldblum. I really like him in that.
Yeah. You never know. We may not have got The Fly without this film. That could have been where he bumped into Cronenberg. And I just want to say, when I watched this again this time, for the first time, I spotted something in the Cronenberg scene. He plays the kind of the guy doing the presentation. He says Scanners.
He says Scanners.
No,
he does.
This is after Scanners, so I think that's a little in-joke.
No, not okay.
And last thing I wanted to say before I shut up is, if you keep an eagle eye out, you'll spot a poster for something called See You Next Wednesday in the movie studio scene. That is another John Landis trademark. It's an imaginary film that appears in lots of his films. So that's a little in-joke as well.
Nice.
Yeah, the Scanners bit. I was like, that's clever.
What would have been great is if all the directors had had to name check at least one of their films in their scenes. So Carl Gottlieb would have had to have said Jaws somehow.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan Demme plays an FBI agent, so I feel like that's a nod to a film that he wouldn't make for another 6 years. Maybe it inspired him. Maybe this film is responsible for lots of other better films. I hope you guys are happy that you at least saw it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the DVD covers and CD covers for Into the Night, kind of allude to La La Land. You got the purple background.
So you're saying we wouldn't have had La La Land?
Exactly. This is what I'm saying.
It's interesting. When you do that Google image search, Game Night pops up. No, but I think it's like After Hours, and it's one of those normal people going on a crazy Shaggy Dog story at night in a city, and maybe Game Night is inspired by this in some way.
Potentially. I think it's time to head to the scores.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
So these are non-painted as yet, but soon to be, maybe, Flixwatcher scores. All the scores are out of 5, and you can go to decimal places. The lowest you can go is a 0.
Yeah.
And we'll start with you, Nick, as it's your choice, with the recommendability.
Well, I'll give it 3 because I have recommended it. So I can't change my mind now.
Yeah, Phil.
I mean, I'd give it a 2.
Helen.
I'm going to give it a 3. It is interesting. It is weird, but I'm glad I'm glad I watched it.
You think you're glad?
Yeah, I think so. And definitely for any kind of Goldblum fans, and you haven't seen it, then you should definitely watch this.
Yeah, I think as fans of 80s films of Goldblum, Landis, and Pfeffier, yeah, you should watch it. I'm not going to rate it that highly because I found it odd. I found it odd to watch. I'm going to go 2.5, straight down the middle. Repeat viewing score. Nick, you've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was still spotting things on the 3rd time. And I actually...
So you're watching it for all those deep cuts that are hidden, hidden layers.
I wouldn't say I enjoy it, but I'm intrigued by it as a kind of student of as a kind of someone who's into film and likes the director and stuff. So I'd say quite highly for repeat viewing. I think you get more out of it.
Okay.
That might just be Stockholm Syndrome, but I'm going to give it 4.
Phil?
I'm going to give it not 4. I'm going to give it 1.
So
it's not a film I'm going to revisit, but as I said earlier, I'm definitely glad that Nick introduced it to me. It is an interesting film, so I don't regret in any way watching it, but I don't think I'll be going back.
Helen?
I'm also going to go with the 1. At 1 hour 55, it's quite a long film for not that much is happening. So it's a lot of time for me to give up again on something so weird. I mean, I may watch it again, but unlikely.
Yeah, I'm in that reason. I reckon 1.5-ish, 1.5. I can't see myself watching it again, but I don't know if it comes on before Jeff Goldblum does his pratfalls and stuff like that. I might stay and watch that before dancing out the room. But yeah, I just can't think of when I'd do it.
It is the kind of film that will be on telly next week. You realise it'll just appear.
Small screen score. Do you want an explanation of this?
Sure.
So small screen score, films that have a low small screen score tends to be the films that you want to watch, you feel that you wish to watch in the cinema. For me, the classic one is Gravity. I'll never watch that on a small screen or a TV. I don't see it'll be the worst thing ever.
That would be a 0, wouldn't it? On
it's pretty much a 0. And then a lot of documentaries, I guess, really work well on Netflix. So small screen is like TV size, laptop kind of size. So the more appropriate you think it is for small screen, the higher the score.
Yeah, I don't think this is a sort of essential see it on a big screen experience, to be honest. Unless you're really into close-ups of Jim Henson. But I watched this late at night, and I think that's the best place, the best time to do it. So I'll say better on the small screen. So is that a 4?
Yeah, it's a high. It's a high one. Yeah,
4.
You want to go high? Phil?
I probably, it's fine on the small screen. Absolutely. I feel like if I give it 4, that feels weird. But yeah, 4. Why not?
A 4, the same. I mean, it's perfectly suited. And again, it's one of those films that has just kind of escaped us. And there it is on Netflix. So if it's escaped you, it is there.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 4. And sometimes when we talk about this, we think about the kind of collected experience watching it in the cinema as part of that. But I don't think if I'd watched this in the cinema, I don't think I would have got anything from being around other people enjoying or
more
not
confusion.
the film.
Yeah. Edgar Wright claimed that the crowd went wild for it. I would like to have seen that. I don't know who these people are. Maybe they're massive Paul Mazursky fans. But
engagement score. How engaged were you whilst watching it? Were you feeling the need to read Twitter, Wikipedia, IMDb? Were you falling asleep and not caring?
I'll be honest. It's a tough one to concentrate on. I've got to give it 2.
Yeah. Sorry. Phil?
I'm going to give it 2. Yes.
Not engaged there. Were you IMDbing or were you doing other stuff?
Well, look, I was not that engaged, and then I got your email with the detailed briefing notes about what we were expected to talk about, and I suddenly became quite engaged and focused on the film and taking notes.
Did I send an email whilst you're watching it? You're reading
no,
emails.
not exactly. I exaggerate, but no. Look, it's a kind of it's like the existential film and quite an existential watch too. It takes you to a slightly weird headspace. I kind of wrote down that it was a semi-neo-noir existential comedy caper thriller, and I guess that's probably how I would describe it, but with an emphasis on the existential part. So yeah, I would say a little engaged, in a sort of philosophical way.
That's the Netflix category, by the way.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, yeah.
Helen?
I'm going to go 2.5, a little bit higher. I mean, it does drag in places, and it is too long. But yeah, I kind of wanted to find out what happened at the end. But it's a good one for a bit of a IMDb spiral, and
you don't
really
need to
get into that.
You don't need to be focused on the film to kind of absorb it, do you? And I was looking through all the other back catalogues for all the actors and director whilst watching it, thinking, how have I missed this? It's still going back to how did I miss this kind of action? I'm going to go for maybe less than 1.5. Yeah, when I got to 45 minutes, I paused it and then saw that I still had an hour and a bit left to go.
Yeah.
And that kind of made my heart sink a bit, to be honest with you.
It's baggy.
Interesting scenes, sort of with long stretches of inertia between them.
I do like the fact that the credits have that, is there a term for it where it cuts to the characters doing things?
Yeah.
Backseat. And then it does, like you say, it does have, you do realise that was actually John Landis playing one of the ratings, I didn't notice up to that point.
I always appreciate it when films do that.
Yeah, it's great. I think more films should do that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That gives us an overall score of 2.62. Hold on, we have got some comments from Twitter, by the way.
Avengers would be 6 days long if they did that. You have been watching.
So we asked people on Twitter before we do record. We say we're reviewing the film. We're, in this case, reviewing Into the Night with Phil de Semlyen and Nick de Semlyen. Tell us your thoughts for an on-air shout-out. Give us your short review and a review out of 5 stars, a score out of 5. Dom De Niro didn't give a 5-star review, but can one of you read out his comments?
Sure, be happy to. Sorry, Mum. Great fucking movie. My VHS back in the day was well fucked up, but never stopped me watching Shit Hot Soundtrack too.
Dom De Niro is probably the one of the people that went to see it with Edgar Wright.
Absolutely.
We also have a short review from our good friend Top Film Tip, who kind of makes little snappy synopses of films that are showing on TV. And this is his synopsis for Into the Night. Nick, do you want to take that?
Sure thing. Amid existential crisis, Insomniac's nocturnal walkabout finds fateful adventure with fleeing gem-smuggling beauty. Wonderful one-night bottle narrative. 4 out of 5 Jeff Goldblum laughs. Which I'd say is a slightly generous...
Very generous.
interpretation. There's not a lot of Jeff Goldblum laughs.
There's not.
Apart from the great slapstick, as discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the term bottle narrative. One night bottle narrative. Which bit? Where's the comma? Is a bottle narrative a term?
Stop subbing the tweets. Sorry.
So I think a bit high. Those two Twitter reviews do not tally with what we thought. generally. But
maybe they haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah. But thanks, guys, for tweeting in. But yeah, overall score for us for 2.62, which is on the lower side for us.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, can you guys sign up and let us know where we can find you online, your Twitter handles and things like that?
Sure thing. I'm on Twitter as @NickDeSemlyen.
Yeah.
And I'm also on Instagram with the same handle, where you'll find some great pictures of trees, which is my specialty.
Why trees? What do you look for in a tree?
I took a picture of a tree and posted it on Instagram when I was trying to figure out what to use Instagram for, and everyone in the office has made fun of me doing it since. So it's become a bit of a hashtag content source for me.
You can find me on Twitter at @PhilDeSemlyen.
Yeah.
And I'm not really on Instagram.
Oh, no worries. And you both, formerly, I'm saying to Phil, formerly of Empire Podcasts.
Yeah.
But you're at you can find you on Time Out,
yes.
London, UK for our UK listeners. So
yep. Pick up a copy of Time Out every Tuesday morning. Tube stations all over the place.
And we can find you, Nick, Empire Magazine and Empire Podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers for coming in, guys.
Thanks for coming
Thank you.
on.
That was
Thanks
fun.
for having me.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find all of the episodes on our website, flixwatcher.tv. Want to give us your 5-star review? Follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter. Big shout out to our editor, Brendan Russell, for all his awesome editing skills. And thanks as always to the mighty people for their tunes.